I think we're good to go.
We got Huber?
Probably.
You got me.
Yeah, nice.
Yes. Yeah, Huber was in my demo, so it was great to get a good little shoulder grab every now and
Yeah,
then.
I was sitting by Jonesy.
Can we start with Keanu? Can we talk about this?
How
Keanu.
often he's in this thing?
Yeah.
Keanu is, the way you summed it up is he's Cortana.
He's Cortana.
Except in a very cyberpunk way.
Mm-hmm.
He's implanted in a biochip in your brain. He's basically infecting your mind for the whole game.
And his
first part of the game.
His
I
attitude is
think it's like an arc, because we kind of
Probably.
see when he gets implanted in the trailer.
Yeah, they said 2 major story events have happened prior to the demo we saw, and both of them kind of basically ended up with you having this biochip implanted. You're infected with Johnny Silverhand,
Yep.
yeah.
who is Keanu Reeves, and you have the secret to immortality, which
Right.
sounds like uploading consciousness.
Ian, I thought of you because his name is Johnny Silverhand, and I thought of Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah, dude.
His attitude
I
throughout
did
the
too.
whole thing.
Whoa.
I thought of Johnny Mnemonic also.
His attitude throughout the whole thing was perfect. Like every
got
time he
parents and
would
stuff?
pop up, it was like he was kind of pissed off and disgruntled, and he'd like throw a cigarette on the ground. But he was also like had a slight hint of happy to be there, and it was just perfect Keanu Reeves. Like no matter how serious he's being, there's that kind of like playfulness about it that I really like.
And there was a glitchiness to him. They had lots of clever, like erasing him from the environment. So you would see him and he'd be like, "Okay, let's go," and then your character would like look down at something and look up, and he's gone.
Right, or he would walk off
Yeah.
screen, and then you would immediately turn and look, and he'd be gone, you know.
And
he
fits-
threw the cigarette into a tub of ice that you had to get
Yes.
into, and like there's no sound, which is
Yeah.
cool to his throwing the cigarette.
And something that I'm so excited about with Cyberpunk is you're seeing Keanu glitch in and out. And this, I guess, applies at the end of the demo, so I'm sure we'll eventually get there. But this game is going to take you places in the sense that you have this world, and then you have digital worlds beyond that you're exploring that seem like
Digital world?
digital world. And so it's like a world within a world within a world.
Yeah.
Just the way they're distorting reality in this game is super cool.
And they, like, just broad strokes, they said several things which confirmed questions or answered questions that I had previously, because I had asked you guys, I was like, man, I hope you can play like hacking only, completely nonviolent,
Right.
blades only, only silent takedowns. And like they showed us the tech tree thing, they showed us like how points go in. They even said you can play this entire game without harming or killing anyone.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
Can I just say something that really blew me away, and that I wish I could have properly conveyed to the CD Projekt RED guys? And obviously, they're coming from an incredible pedigree, but time and again, I see these companies get out there, and they're like, hey guys, we're making an RPG, and it's like, no, you're making an action game that like you can level up in.
Right.
Cool.
That you can get slightly
Cyberpunk
better, yeah.
2077 is an RPG-ass RPG. Everything, you have so many minute decisions, and they're not just like, hey, you can make a lot of decisions and it has consequence. Pre-order now. They went through painstakingly, and they're like, here's how this piece of clothing will change what you do in the game. Here's how if you build your character this way, and they would flip. They had different builds of the characters, and they would show you here are all of the new things that you have access to based on the decisions that you make. But more than that, the world building. They didn't just introduce a character and they're like, yeah, this is a guy you're going to go on a mission with. They're like, okay, here's the area, here's its history, here's the economic situation it's in.
Yeah.
Everything had a background, everything had detail, it all made sense. It all, like, everything fit together logically in a believable way. Like, they are making an RPG.
Yeah, they talked about the area called Pacifica, I think,
Yeah.
which is like a district of Night City, basically Pacific Palisades.
Yeah, they say there's 6 districts.
Yeah, 6 districts, and this place, they were like, there was a billboard even that was like, "Welcome to beautiful Pacifica," and it's like this was supposed to be a cool like resort beach town.
Yep.
But it all went to hell whenever like whatever war happened, and all the corporations just kind of like pulled their funding out, and now the Voodoo Boys have moved in, and they're the hacker gang that occupies this space.
Pacifica, one of 6 districts.
Yeah, yeah. It's very cool.
One
And
of
it
the
was
things
huge.
interesting about the Voodoo Boys is a lot of them speak like Haitian Creole.
Creole, yeah.
Which
And-
you can translate.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If you have this a specific
He said that,
upgrade,
yeah.
you can translate.
And even the
what
subtitles
people
are
saying to each
cool
other.
because it'll show it in the language, and then,
then it
as it's
switches.
typing itself
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
the letters will start to become English.
Also, he rode a motorcycle, and it was awesome.
And even,
First
even
person.
the smallest things, like the contact that you're going to meet to do this mission in Pacifica, they're like, oh, he's a butcher. And they don't just leave it there. They're like, he's a butcher, and in this world, real meat is a luxury. Synthetic meat is the most common, and you like see him making synthetic meat and just,
I believe they
rich.
said disgusting synthetic meat.
Yeah.
Most people eat disgusting synthetic meat.
As long as we're just kind of talking about generalizations before we go step by step, but
Yeah.
the demo did. I just want to say, like, one of the things that it just absolutely floored me that, like, this isn't a case of like, you know, comparing it to other Cyberpunk games, comparing it to other first-person RPGs that I've played, comparing it to other action games, just video games. Period. I have never, ever seen this many human beings in an environment in a video game in my life. I mean, this is just insane. Like, you would walk by a room, nothing was happening. We're not going in there. There's no objective. There's like 50 people in there. Like, we went into like a nightclub, and you're just shoulder to shoulder. Excuse me, like pushing past people. I love when you finally found that guy. You walk into a room and you ask somebody, and the guy's just like working on a machine. It's like, do you know where this guy is? And the guy just looked and points, and then like goes back to what he's doing. And you're like, oh, cool, thanks. And just like and even when you find that guy, he's working on meat, and then it's like, oh, here, let me go help you. Just everything was so fluid, and it really felt everywhere that you went. It's like, this is not just people. It's like, no, this is kind of like Assassin's Creed. I think that was like one of the franchises that really tried to sell that and push that. Like, look how many people are just living in this world. I really felt like I am in an environment. There's one part where he's like, okay, this looks like a nasty part of town.
Yeah.
And like it did. Like it wasn't just because like, there's graffiti or like, I hear gunshots.
Right.
It's just like, this feels different. Like the way people are animated, the way.
Which is a good feat, because the whole damn city seems like a rough
Of
part
course.
of town.
Yeah. No, it's.
Well, I'm waiting to see, because there were three. Very interested. There were three kind of backgrounds to your character that you could
Yes.
choose. The first one was
Nomad.
I really
Nomad.
want to talk about that.
What?
I really want to talk about that.
Yeah, and then it was Street Kid, and then it was Corporate.
corporate, baby.
And but the shot for Corporate was like this woman in a nice suit with like a really fancy car. I want to see that part of town too.
Yeah,
because like
course.
all the stuff we've seen is like super hardcore.
the
more or
corporate
less.
backstory is that you have forsaken.
Right.
Yeah, so
but
it's
like,
not
does
like-
that part of town still exist? Is what I'm
Yes.
wondering.
You can kind of get a sense from the trailer. You can see
actually,
some
yeah,
the
last
big
true.
fancy
That's true,
cars.
the big fancy
and
gala,
There's
yeah.
like business meetings happening and stuff.
Like Ben was talking about just the RPG-ness
Mm-hmm.
and the world building, and I love nothing more than like, depending on what you pick, changes how you interact with people in this world. So like, if you're a street kid, there are additional dialogue options that only the street kid can say, and that is like some of my favorite stuff in a video game where. Like, that is meaningful, and then depending on what skills you pick, that also changes it. So the possibilities are so many.
And if you're playing as a man or a woman, they said it changes
Sure.
a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
there was a character. You're going on this mission for this guy, and then you run into another character that is like, hey, like they're just setting you up, and you get a bunch of dialogue options. And to speak to Huber's point about having the street kid background, it's such a great scenario because the information that you're being fed, you're in the heat of the moment, and it's both equally believable and not believable.
Right.
Like, whichever way you go, it actually makes perfect sense why you would go that way. And like your background as a street kid really adds a lot of context and flavor here because all of these options are valid and logical, but you're like, well, I would trust somebody from the streets, the people that I'm working for, more than a suit like you. And it felt like a really meaningful choice that played into how attached you were to your own history, which
And
I thought was really
that
cool.
I thought was the moment where that's really sung for me because, you know, we've all played RPGs where you picked the vagabond background or whatever, and that just unlocks some additional lines of dialogue, and like you pick that line of dialogue, and then the other person just has like one extra line of response text, and then goes on as if it was all the same. this was written and the way the scenario was set up, it really did influence. Like, I mean, we weren't playing it, but like I could see how it would influence your playstyle because you would think that you would see that option lit up and say, I would react that way. Yes.
And I feel like they construct the dialogue options in a lot of games where it's like, okay, well, here's like the one or two that make sense, and then here's like the super goofy ones where they feel really artificial. But it was every decision that you were making here, it's like, man, I could really see that line of thought. It was just very believable, which I liked.
What'd you say, Huber?
I was just saying, like, I think of just like the original Deus Ex, the opening mission. If you kill people, you go back and your guy is like comments on it and gives you less money. And it's just like those moments where gameplay and story are coming together. Like everything in Cyberpunk is just next level.
Yeah. One of the things too, they're talking about your street cred. Kind of, it opens up new options in the shops as well.
Yeah.
Cool. We saw that level up.
Yeah. And just kind of to what Huber was saying and what you're saying is like every scenario seemed like more than any game I think I've seen in action, you could really palpably feel the options available to you. Like and the demo went out of its way in the later combat part to show the different scenarios and the different playstyles. Like they even had like you couldn't do this in the game, but like they had like a dev tool where they could switch character builds from a netrunner. Also, still blows my mind that they're just all straight up just using terms like netrunner and ice and stuff. From
we need
all
to
of it.
have a lengthy conversation about nanowire at some point.
Baby God, yeah, that's a whole subsection of this. But like, and then you could be a netrunner or a straight up fighter. But even outside of that combat scenario where they were switching back and forth to show that, like even just talking to people or walking into places, like going in to see the butcher, like you probably could have walked in there and like killed those guys. And like done whatever you wanted, like gone about this whole other way. When you're on a mission going into this defunct mall, they're like, the two guys are like, oh yeah, three guys went out of here a second ago. They're probably at the market or whatever getting food. I don't know, up to you if you want to go follow them or whatever. And you could go and investigate them or like take out they're like the heavies, so you could like stealth up on them, kill them in the market, go back to the place, or just go in the front door or go in the back. It's just. I don't know. It actually seems real. It didn't seem like, because sometimes like Deus Ex or whatever, it's like you either go in the vent or you shoot everyone. You know.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to say with this freedom and options, I think what makes it more meaningful, to me at least, is sometimes when you have games with a lot of freedom, it's like, okay, we're going to give you a bunch of options, and yeah, you can tune your character to be better at those things, but you can kind of do everything. It's just like in Cyberpunk, I didn't get that sense. I feel like your choices are more consequential to that, and the way that they presented the demo, it was like, I am only doing this because I made these choices. This would not be available to me. I could not do this. I couldn't do this path if I didn't build my character this specific way. And so I really like those hard limitations where it's like, there's a ton of cool shit you can do, so make sure you pick the right thing.
And like the netrunner character version, which is like the hacker, found out that there was a guy counter running against you way earlier than the other character would have. And like just really cool little stories, stuff like that. Like you wouldn't have even known that other hacker was there.
The reason, and again going back to things tying into gameplay, the reason is you're hacking into a panel to disable a camera, and then that's when because what happens is the merc that hires you, he's put a feed into your head, and so he's watching what you're doing, and then he's like, hey dude, there's somebody else like linking in and trying to like get in and watch what you're doing. Yeah. And so that's how you find out about the agent. Right. Whereas the reason you don't find out about that with the strength build is because you don't worry about that camera. You just rip the doors wide open with your arms.
Honestly, that was my favorite part of the whole thing.
That was crazy.
That was just set up so well, switching between, because there was so much nuance, and you could really like target and see all of the interesting items that you could hack. And then he's like, all right, I'll switch over to her. And then he just like walks through
but
the door.
like,
And I'm like, that's
the
so
animation
of
the arms,
do, but like, yeah, you could see the individual parts, like
the arm like split open when it was working harder, and like the muscles, it was artificial arms. Yeah. And
then
it was cool that the
made a
like
good
runner
case,
character, the super squishy like runner character, they were playing as the male character, and then the female character had like these bionic arms that were just ripping doors open.
Guys, this game comes out in like 10 months, and during the demo, I was already thinking about multiple playthroughs.
Oh yeah, blades and hacking. That's I want to never
Sure.
fire a gun.
The other thing that was interesting about what they had in that combat scenario right after that is the Netrunner hacked the turret, and the turret just acted like an auto turret, whereas the strength build just rips it
turret
off of the stand and just start shooting at people like it's a minigun.
Did they hack it first or rip it out first?
No, they just ripped it out and used it
First?
like a
Yeah.
regular gun.
I mean, like in your demo, which one happened?
Oh,
first?
they ripped it out first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was because that at first I was like, oh wow, they did it in opposite order for you. But no.
The hacker had people pull out pins of grenades that were on them, or just shoot themselves.
You
Like,
can
Yeah.
hack their arm to make them do crazy things.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that's in the shop is like all these, they called them demons, programs that basically you can install into somebody else with the wire. So like you use the wire kind of like a whip in a way, but then you can also like actually plug into somebody.
We need to talk. Now's the time.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's talk
Nanowire.
about that wire.
Yeah, the nanowire. Because it's one of those things that you see in a gameplay demo like this where it's like, oh, cool, it does that thing. And like that, man, that really opens up the possibilities where it's like you have ranged hacking where you're going to be able to sling this wire into somebody and they're not going to be able to see it. And you're going to be able to completely hack into them from range, just disable them completely. But then he's like, oh, yeah, you can also just use it as like heated whips, and then he goes into this hallway and he just starts slicing people up, and the audience that we had was like pretty quiet the whole time. This is a 50-minute demo, and when you get to the nanowire section where he's just slicing everybody up, and you could hear the audience be like, oh
Yeah,
man, he really cut
same
that
with ours.
guy up.
Yeah,
he
he
just
was
walked down a
hacking arms
hallway
off
and
and-
then just went like and like dude's like, I think she cut 2 people's heads off and an arm came off. And even the guy running the demo was like, oh.
They were surprised at their own gore, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like this superheated nanofilament wire that not only hacks things, but yeah, you whip out and it could just slice through like. It was kind of weird because it was like it would slice body parts off of people that otherwise took a few bullets to kill. So
it seemed a little OP. I'm kind of
seemed
curious.
kind of
what the-
overpowered, yeah.
Probably mostly a close quarters thing. You're not gonna walk
Yeah.
into a
Oh,
giant
yeah.
room where like dudes on second floor shooting at you and you're just like slashing at people.
And also, how much do you have to invest to get there? Because they're
Right.
like, hey, this is like halfway through the game. We already have some advanced skills.
Right, yeah.
So.
And yeah, on the skill tree, it had, there's cool and tech and, the other ones.
Body, intelligence, reflexes, technical, and cool.
Thank you. And like it was interesting because in the tech tree, it's sort of like a branching kind of spidery shape circle. And under cool, it had things like assassinations and sniper rifles. It had 3. And then tech, in the menu, it just said tech and then engineering. And it had like 1 thing. And it's interesting. And then blades was under something else and hacking was its own thing and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting that not all of them are equally weighted. You know what I mean? Like you could put tech points in and it's going to get you that 1 skill.
Yeah.
I'm like, that skill must be awesome.
Yeah.
One thing I liked about the tree too that it was fun. I actually saw 2 different skill trees today, and both developers were like, They're like, this is not final. They're like, what is this
Right.
for E3? We're still figuring this out. But I liked that it was like a fan, so it wasn't like you got to do all of this weird nonsense and then you finally get to this point. It was just like a center point and then everything fanned out. So it's like you just pick a direction and go. So if you like you were saying with blades, it's just like just blades. Keep going, blades.
And it's important to say, like we've been mentioning that they were switching between playstyles, and they stressed this too. The playstyles they were switching between were just for the dev build of this demo. There aren't character classes in this game. There aren't anything like that. You just put points in what you think would be cool and go for it. And I imagine if you, there are definitely play styles. They said specifically there aren't like classes.
Yeah, they said we
Right.
don't have classes. We're going for a fluid class system.
Right.
Yeah.
I imagine if you
there's
put,
something where like it still will name your class based on what you put points into, but I think it's like
That will change and evolve as you put
Yeah.
more
fluid.
points,
Yeah. And I imagine if you put like the first level of points into everything, maybe that'll work. I don't know, but like you might not excel in any area. Jack of all trades, who knows?
Because I definitely noticed that when they went between them, like they had the names of like the strong whatever and the netrunner.
Strong solo and
Strong
netrunner,
solo, yeah. Yeah, the other thing the netrunner could do was hack the boss.
Yeah.
Like scan it and create a weak point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the boss fight was cool in so many different ways. Just the actual mechanics of the boss itself, where it had this juice. This boss was this like giant person and picked up a giant hammer. But the only reason they could wield the giant hammer is because they had this juice going into them.
Yeah.
And you could see the juice on the back of them, and so you could play strategically where you're like, okay, I'm going to deal with that source of their power, and then if you destroyed it, they could no longer wield the hammer. It was just an option that was completely taken away from them.
Like Bane from that one Batman and Robin.
And you had like these glass sheets, these glass panels that were all throughout the arena.
Like TV,
and as you were fighting this giant boss that was wielding this ridiculous hammer, you'd be like shooting and you'd like hit these glass panels and they would just shatter, and it was just such a cool
and pop up out of the ground.
It was just such a
and
cool
then
scene.
and then at the same time, at some point in the fight, somebody started hacking you,
right.
and your HUD is kind of getting all screwy.
And it's I got a sense that like it affected your movement. So if you were like, it didn't seem like too annoying, but it seemed like there was some erratic
Speaking
movement
of
going on.
movement, earlier,
Really quick, I thought of Ben when all the glass was shattering everywhere. It reminded me of Crisis Zone.
Nice.
Speaking
Crisis Zone E3 shout out.
Shout out. Speaking of movement, there were some enemies using a cool ability that I assume you'll be able to use too.
The zigzag?
The zigzag run dash thing. There were these enemies that were strong-looking enemies, and they would go like like really fast. And I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Crumbled to the nanowire.
Oh yeah. The nanowire would just slice right through those chumps. But the guy, it started with an S, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. It had a name, but it was like a certain augment that just gives you super speed in little bursts. And the enemies were using it, and our characters didn't seem to have it. But like, I imagine that's a thing you can install. Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
I suppose we should go more linearly.
I don't think we need to go super linear through everything.
Give us a play-by-play. A
Just
lot
a
of
quick play.
chat kind of wants a
like just to explain what's happening. So you start out, and you're trying to find Brigitte.
You're trying to find Brigitte, who is the head of the Voodoo Boys, and then you find this. Somehow you run into this guy in the chapel, which is the crowded place that Jones was talking to.
Oh yeah, that was so. Like you're watching this guy make a speech, and you're just push, and it was neat too because it wasn't just like I'm maneuvering around these. Like you could physically see like each person you would bump into, and then this guy grabs you out of the crowd and says, wait, no, not here. You need to go someplace else.
Yeah, and the guy and then he tells you about the guy.
And if you have Street Kid, you can be like, how did you recognize me?
Yeah.
But that character didn't have Street Kid, so he couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like you're in a totally different part of town and all that.
Yeah.
And so,
God, I imagine parts where like if you do certain things and you're a specific backstory, additional dialogue options open up. Like if you have like recon from hacking something and your corporate, like that'll open up things. Oh my God.
Dialogue is gonna kind of constantly be tormenting in that game. I'm gonna have so many moments where I'm like, oh man, that option seems really cool. Wish I picked that background. Or oh man, I wish I had that stat raised high enough to get that option.
And like different parts of town, I'm sure different backgrounds are going to be way more effective because like they said like this is a part of town where like not a lot of people go. Everyone here is super disenfranchised, and like that's kind of what the Street Kid background was talking about too. Like you grew up in a place like Pacifica, and so like a lot of the dialogue options in this demo had Street Kid, but then when you talk to the like weird corporate police suit guy, corporate was an option. And so like and I wonder how much of the game you can like hang in those areas or like it's gonna be wild.
So you go to the butcher shop, which we talked a little bit about, and you meet Placide, who is the contact that you need to meet. What I think is really cool about this sequence, though, is I feel like most RPGs like this, you would walk up to him and you would have this entire conversation just while he's doing whatever idle animation he's doing at the butcher shop.
Just staring at you, like dumping exposition
and it's like,
on you.
no, like this is very natural. Like he stops what he's doing. You start walking and talking.
Puts his tools down.
You go through this whole area until you like get up into his back office and you sit down. And then like, okay, now we're going to start discussing this deal. Now I'm going to start telling you what I want you to do.
Even before the back office, maybe this is what you were going to say.
Yeah.
Even before the back office, he goes to this like black marketplace and basically just like says like, hang on a sec, and like has a conversation with some other NPC for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Like, because it's something he had to do. And you just sit there. In the demo, the player went to a shop stall next door, bought the samurai jacket and another brain mod, and then by the time they were done with that, Placide was like done with his business.
Right when he leaves the butcher shop, you go out into a public square, and one guy just shoots an assault rifle into the air.
Oh yeah,
One guy's got an Uzi, and he's just like, ah, like shooting in the air. No one cares.
No one cares.
No one
Brandon,
cares.
I thought-
Everyone in the environment's like, yeah, what are you gonna do? You know,
This
thought,
happens
like,
all the
another
time.
day, more bullets in the
He
air.
yelled something like some kind of like slogan or something.
I thought I was like, did an NPC have a glitch and they're just like erratically firing their gun and they're not supposed to be? And I was like, no, this is just this world.
This district,
Yeah.
man.
There's also, I thought it was cool. There's the guy like out on a couch like noodling at a guitar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it said like
Just
resident.
strumming along.
Yeah.
But I wonder too, like I think of the I think it's a motel in the trailer where there's just a guy on the ground and people are just like beating the crap out of him, and like I wonder if you'll encounter these things of just like sorry man, like, or I want to get involved. I actually want to stop. Sorry.
Well, and there was there's a moment in this when you're walking to his office, and like I think they like looked intentionally, but like you could have easily not looked at this and missed it. But like there's just an attack helicopter just like shooting the hell out of the side of a high rise in the distance.
Way in the distance.
And like it's just like another day in this city.
Yeah.
And like I was thinking, like for a second I was like, oh, that's kind of dumb. It's just shooting forever and ever and ever, and it's never gonna stop. Like you'd be done by now. And like right when I thought that, the floor like exploded and then the helicopter flew away. And I was like, oh, all right. Like okay.
Did we also say no loads?
No loads.
no, at all,
Unless
yeah.
you fast
Zero.
travel, doesn't load.
Zero loads.
I really want to focus on the conversation with Placide in his office because it was my favorite moment in the entire 50-minute demo. Because Blood, you brought up such a great point where, regardless of the personality of the character, you do get into sequences like that where it's like, okay, I'm going to explain everything to you, and then you're going to do the mission. Placide is not a man of words. Right. He does not trust you. Why would he? And he just keeps things very, like, he just answers in very short sentences. Doesn't trust you, you don't trust him, and you get to this moment where you think like, okay, we're gonna sit. He's like, sit down. We're gonna have this nice long conversation about this job that you want me to do. Not how it goes. He grabs your arm, and you're like, wait, whoa, don't do that, man, because everybody has their own personal jack that, like, if you get access to it, you can completely control the person. And so you have to make this decision, and you get the option. It's not just some sequence that you're watching. You get the option of, well, do I let Placide do this or not? And at that point, once again, like, you could see it going both ways, where you're like, this isn't a good idea. I don't want to get into this. It seems shady. Or like, no, I really want to do this
And
job.
Ben, it was so fast. The guy
Yeah.
grabs your arm. He's going to stick you with a needle.
Yep.
You have like 1.5 seconds to choose. I can imagine just watch, like, playing the game and that happening and just like not being able to react quick enough.
You
'cause
actually
these
have a
high
long
stakes-
time to choose? Because, like, in our
Yeah,
demo,
I
he-
thought they like kind of.
Oh,
they,
I think
they
I
got
think
it.
the
first one
player,
went by
the
quick.
character itself automatically goes like, whoa, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a dialogue comes up
Got it.
where it
But-
lets you
got it.
choose. Yeah.
But what's cool is even though you have a long time to make the decision and reflect on it, Placide is like, come on, man, we got to do
Yeah.
it. Like, he's egging you on
I like
as
that
you're waiting, as
when
he's waiting for you.
the announcer would stop and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to try to explain something," and then the character would be like, "Are we going to do this or what?" And the guy's like, "Hold on." Like,
Well, at one point after the second time, Placide was like, "What?" You know, the announcer person was like, "Yeah, if we wait any longer, he's gonna get mad." Or like, it seemed like, I don't know, maybe if you idle for too long, the characters would get irritated with you or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or if you press things too much, they'll get mad and like you'll just lose the opportunity.
Yeah, and so so once you decide to let him jack in, then it's this like really like invasive feeling thing where he's like looking through all the stuff that you've had implanted in your body, and he's like, okay, what's this thing?
Right.
What's that? And I think you pretty much have the option to lie or to tell him what you want to tell him about
like what's it to you?
Yeah.
And he ends up saying, oh, I don't know. It's unmarked, and I got shot in the head, so it doesn't work anyway.
Which we know is a lie.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it's total lie
That's
because
the
that's
chip
the
with
big deal
Johnny
chip.
Silverhand in it. Yeah, that's like the chip.
I think he freaks out because it doesn't have a name on it.
Right.
He's
He
like,
says,
this isn't
he's
labeled
like, this is
as
unmarked. What is this? Yeah.
The other thing I thought was pretty cool during that is somebody, again, then this goes into the translator because, he's talking to you in English, but other people are talking to him in Creole.
Yeah.
And so, like one of his guys just, like, comes out of the back door and, like, starts talking to him about that, about some other thing going on. And they say, you have the option. You can press and, like, ask him what that's about, or you can decide, or not to, because some characters are going to be like, that's none of your business.
Yeah.
So
something I liked about that is the beginning of the dialogue options. It said bracket, Placide bracket, and then bracket, room bracket. And then the room one was like, what was he talking about? And the announcer in our case didn't choose that and said, if we press, he'll get mad at us. But I like that distinction of like, keep talking to this character or address the thing that's happening in the room. I like that they're differentiating clearly those options, you know, so you don't accidentally pick like, what's that guy doing, and get yourself shot or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so basically we're doing this whole job just so he'll introduce us to Brigitte.
Again, the leader of the Voodoo Boys.
Yeah. And then that's when we get on the motorcycle.
Yeah, baby.
And
Change
we have
the radio
stations.
Radio station.
I think you picked like the fourth one.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
And
which is just like another great opportunity for them to talk about this region, and you see some of those
great.
those scenes.
Just seemed really natural to control and look around.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of like she would ride and kind of look around the environment at the same time.
I liked how they made it a point to emphasize, like, hey, you can own your vehicles. These are yours.
Oh,
which is
yeah, I
nice.
missed that.
And that kind of I'm a little bit curious about that because in the last time we drove the car around and it was just there, like it was just kind of happened to be like on the path that we were taking, and then he pops out of this office where like we didn't know where this was. We had to follow this character to find the office and get this information, and then poof, our bike's there.
Jones,
So,
how hyped will you be if you have safe houses?
oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
I want to
that's
know what
what
your own
happened.
apartment looks like.
I think
We've seen it
we
in
saw
the
it. Yeah,
other
that's
demos.
where
Yeah.
the other
First
demo
demo.
opened.
Yeah.
So that was one of the only things I think in this demo that was just like placed in front of you. Like maybe that's not there, or you have to like call someone to bring it to you,
Or that's how you got there. Maybe you
Maybe.
drove up on that motorcycle and parked it. I don't know.
But
yeah.
that was like one of the only red flags. I was like, how'd that bike get there? But and it was just neat because it's like if I'm playing GTA 5, like I'm running over people, I'm driving around, who
Right.
cares? And like it didn't seem weird that she seemed to be like obeying traffic laws or like would
She
stop at
stopped
a
at a-
stop
yeah.
sign and watch a car go by and then drive like.
And the guy in the other car was like gave him the eye. The car that drove by like looked at
Oh, really?
their character.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think so. Maybe I think I'm not imagining that.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
But yeah, we take the bike to this mall.
Yeah, so you get to the mall, and that's when we talk to the scouts, the goons. Oh, and I think we should kind of clarify the whole mission scenario is that there's this other gang called the Animals,
yeah.
who aren't from this part of town, who have kind of like taken up this abandoned mall and are just like, it's basically a turf war. Like part of you is like wanting to figure out like what the heck they're doing there, but it's like, yeah, they don't belong there. Like take them
Both
out.
V and Placide, both in their own ways, pointed out like, I think V might have asked, but it's like, is that typical of the Animals? And he was like, no.
Well, no, that was another moment that I really liked, where even though you've created this character, you're not just this like mindless vessel. You're
Right.
using your own history, and you're like, wait a minute, like you're giving me this mission to take care of these animals, but it really doesn't make any sense for the animals to be here, and here's why.
Right.
Like I love that. I love that you're actually a person that is building on their own knowledge, and you're not just like some quest receptacle.
Your
That's really
character really feels like a part of this world.
Yes.
And like your character pushes back.
Yeah.
Your character is like, no, why won't you tell me what I'm what I'm really doing here? The animals wouldn't just take over a mall
There
for no
has to
reason.
be somebody who sent them here. How
Right.
is that connected?
Right.
Yeah.
Combat-wise too, I also liked just during the whole progress of going through this mall, getting to the end of the demo, walked by a lot of people. There's she made the decision to just stealth past people, and it wasn't like classic patterns of like, oh, this person walks to here, waits a little bit, and then walks, and then now it's my turn to go. Just kind of like being very observant of like, okay, I can. Sense there's people on the second floor. That guy's going up a staircase, and
in the combat scenario.
Yeah.
because it just seemed like once we were like really deep in the mall, it was like, man, there's people all over the place.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of tricky.
And not the only game to do this, but something they did bring up, which I always think is cool, is you may not want to go and stealth kill or hack everything right away, because if you be patient, you can eavesdrop on people and get more information.
Yeah, which is interesting. They had like basically an ability to like zoom in and eavesdrop on characters from a distance.
And the characters were doing stuff. Like one guy had like a bunch of pizzas.
Yeah.
Like the animals were hungry because it was like 7 p.m. and like they needed to eat
time
dinner.
of day changed.
Oh yeah, it's a day-night cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Active day-night cycle.
Here's a Hubert moment. Stashing a body in a garbage chute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was here for it. It was excellent.
Yeah, the announcer that we had was like, "You'll be pleased to know that garbage chutes, just like today, are still good for hiding garbage and bodies."
It was great too, because right at that moment they're like, you can be lethal or non-lethal, but we're gonna kill this guy.
Yeah.
I think he brought that up at one point when the person playing just put a bullet in somebody's head that was knocked
when they
out.
defeated the
Like,
boss.
Oh, well, okay.
It was like, and you can always choose to spare someone, and then she shot her in the side, and it's like, okay.
Our guy was like, because he just kept shooting, like even after he killed the person and didn't use the non-lethal route, he just like kept breaking the glass panels, and he was like, "You need to go to therapy." Like,
oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, they were like ribbing each other. It was funny.
And we overheard the two people that we met out front. We overheard them notice those people after the animals notice the two characters. They were like, "Hey, there's two guys out front. Let's go get them." And that those are two people we didn't have to deal with.
What was really interesting in this section too is they hack a number of different objects.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remember from the first trailer, how there was like kind of like this boxing training robot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this part where they hack the robot so it like punches back really hard and just like just floors the guy, probably breaks his skull or something. And like everyone just rushes to him to see like, is he breathing? Like what's going on?
And then once it was an amazing moment in video game, because like it felt really real. Like the robot punches this guy, blood comes out, he falls down, everyone's like, "Whoa, shit!" and they run up to him, and like there's that moment of like, "Oh man, is he dead? Is he breathing?" And then like the guy like, I don't know, he moaned or something, and they know he's okay, and then somebody else jokes like, "Man, he really got you, huh?" Or like whatever. He's like, "He really railed you."
This is my favorite note.
They just
that
started
I took.
joking about it.
This is my favorite note that I took. It was just hackbot, smash head.
Yeah.
Right. And then that was
In
followed
the darkness.
up.
Yeah.
That was followed up by there was a guy that was like lifting weights.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no!
And they hacked the thing because even that has like some kind of computer.
Yeah, pretty much everything is connected. Yeah.
And so like you just put extra weight on it, and it's like, and they're like, that's what happens when you don't have a spotter.
Well, and then
I think he said there too. He was like, I think he'll be okay. Oh no,
yeah, he was like trying to lift it. He's like, he's strong, he'll be okay. And then it was like, and like snapped his neck, and he's like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, and then
brutal. So you can even kill people with hacking.
Yeah, and then there's the soda machine.
Wait, did an NPC say that, Ian, or the demo person?
The guy demoing.
The announcer said he's strong, he'll be all right.
Because that actually was the only moment of the whole demo where I was like, felt the video game-ness, because that thing like crushed him and he was like, "Ugh!" like screaming, and then there was a dude like 10-15 feet away that just didn't acknowledge, and maybe it's just
not in our demo. There was no one near that guy.
Yeah, there was a guy like just right up the escalator, like right there in view, and he just didn't respond. And I was like, maybe it's just these type of people, the animals or whatever, or just demo stuff.
Well, and when you're working out and stuff, maybe yell and grunt and stuff too. I don't know.
Yeah. But then the last one that they did in that sequence was a soda machine, and so they started having sodas like popping out of that, so that the guys looked at
ours was different.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah?
don't think we had that.
It happened. It was a advertisement or a soda machine, and they just made it make a bunch of noise. Nothing came out, but they just made it like do its little jingle.
Oh, okay. There's
then
definitely
they were
a pile of soda cans.
Both people like looked
cool.
at it, but then the player went up with the filament wire or whatever, the
Nanowire.
nanowire, and then got spotted. The one guy turned around, and then this was the moment where the woman playing the demo just went whoosh, and it just like sliced the first guy like this and the second guy's head off at the same time. And I think that they don't usually kill them both in one go like that, because the announcer was just like, oh. It was interesting. But yeah.
And then that's when they kind of first started talking about the class system. So, they went from hacking the camera to the strong solo.
Strong arms, yeah.
Yeah, where they rip up.
Which again, not a
open the
class
doors.
system really, but more like just a free assignment of points into how you
And
want
then,
to play.
Huber, you wanted to talk about this melee stuff.
Yes. The melee was good, but I thought the shooting was better.
Okay.
I thought the shooting had more impact, looked cooler. The melee, like, some of the hits felt really powerful, but then kind of like some of the animations, like the neck snap animation, like they would hit them and then they would do the neck snap and it would kind of just like warp into the neck snap animation. Again, just stuff that like it comes out next year. All this stuff is just ripe for polish. But
I don't think they snapped the neck in ours.
yeah, and again, and that's the thing is
I don't
there's
remember
just
that.
I don't remember a
so much
snap
going on.
neck.
Yeah, he like took a bottle. He took a broken
Oh,
bottle.
yeah, they did
and,
that.
like,
Yeah.
stabbed him in the side, and then the guy like staggered, and then he went up behind and just like snapped his neck.
Oh, they killed that person just by stabbing her with a bottle a bunch of times in ours.
Yeah. Well, there's also a knife too. Did they throw
They
it?
threw it.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved the knife throw. Loved the hammer. But I was pleased with the melee, but I was extremely impressed with the shooting. So that's where my head
It's tough to tell sometimes with melee unless you're the one controlling it too.
Yeah.
Totally.
They dipped into the skill tree a bit, which we talked about a little bit. I didn't get to write down everything, but the ones I wrote down, some of them are interesting. Two-handed, shotguns, blades, hacking, rifles, handguns, assassination, and I think there is like one on there called cold-blooded or something.
Yeah, that was there.
Did we mention that after you killed the boss, you can pick up and use the hammer?
Yep.
If
If
you
you
have-
have strength enough.
Yep.
With strong
If you-
arms.
Yep.
Yeah, they in the strong solo version with the mechanical strength arms, she could pick up the hammer and use it.
Did they use the hammer during the fight for you guys?
Yeah.
No.
yeah,
It was
ours
only
we did.
after we got a swing.
Cool.
Yeah, in ours they broke the juice thing, and then the boss dropped the hammer, and then our player picked up the hammer and kind of like whacked her with it. She wasn't as strong, like super strong enough to use it effectively, but like hit the boss a couple of times with it.
We had somebody so what they did with the skill points is they invested in handgun
Yeah.
proficiency so that she could use a gun there a little better. They used somebody as a human shield for a second.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
Which is
brutal.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Against a turret,
Well-
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Or no, yeah.
What was so brutal about that, using the guy as a human shield, is it was actually, he carried him a pretty good ways, and you could see the guy like squirming around, and then just his body going limp as you're getting closer to the turret.
Took enough bullets and died.
very
Yeah,
brutal.
It was intense.
Yeah, and that's where you rip out the turret.
Yeah.
And that's when you hack the guy to jam his targeting. They also talked about being able to have a guy like pull the pin on his own grenade.
They did that for us, yeah. And they had someone shoot themselves in the head by hacking their arm.
Yeah, and we didn't get to see that because she was like, "Oh, we really wanted to have someone shoot themselves in the head, but our demoer is like bloodthirsty right now. He was just killing people
Oh,
Yeah.
with the wire, man. He was just flinging that wire around."
it's interesting that it was different, yeah.
And then there was the boss fight with the Sasquatch that we talked about with the glass and the guy hacking into you.
Sasquatch is the person's name, not they weren't
Right.
actually a Sasquatch. big lady.
But yeah, the animals are
strong
like,
lady,
we kind of talked about this a little bit, but basically like they're just like pumping up their muscles with this crazy juice.
They're like roid raging gang.
And they did talk about like when you beat the boss, you can leave them or kill them.
Yeah.
And then we have the kind of dialogue with the Netwatch agent, that kind of like turn.
Well, they showed the Netrunner hacked into the van that you're trying to find, this like tech van, and then that lets you know like, oh, there's a Netwatch, which is basically like internet police, I guess.
Yeah.
In the building, and then the Netwatch guy starts hacking the building, and you have to like use routes to get up to him. Yeah, and then you confront him in this movie theater. Very cool, up in the projection.
Oh yeah,
showing a western.
Showing a western.
Yeah, that was great.
Internet police,
just like a movie with like in-game, character animation and stuff. Is playing out scenes.
Horses,
just like.
Yeah, and so when you get in there, he disables your connection to Placide so that you're just talking one-on-one, so you can have this dialogue with you, and tries to tell him like, what did he say that like the word that they use for you is like means like dirty rag or something?
I remember it reminded me of Runyon, but it's not Runyon
something like
Canyon.
that,
it's
though,
like Roignon
or
something.
Yeah, but you're being used.
A Creole word for like a used rag that you throw away. And so the Netrunner or the Net Watcher guy is like, yo, what do you think they're gonna do with you after like you were sent here by them? Why do you think they didn't tell you what the end of this mission was? It's like you're sent here and they're just gonna dispose of you like they dispose of everyone after they are done, And then because our character had Street Kid, we were predisposed to say, no, I'm gonna stick with my guts here. I'm gonna stay with these guys.
Screw the man.
And so then you like hack into this dude and access the map. So the Net Watchers have been using agents around the town to try to find the location with this like basically like super intense Google mapping van to find the location of the Voodoo Boys hideout. But then as soon as you hack into that guy, you see all the operatives of the Net Watchers in the area getting like X'd out on the map, and then that guy gets X'd out, and then you get X'd out and your screen goes black. And then you wake up 8 hours later and Johnny Silverhand, I presume, somehow protected your mind from being scrambled.
Sure.
Because they were supposed to like melt your brain by overloading, hacking you, and wiping you, melting you. And Johnny Silverhand is just like, told you, or whatever. Like, should have seen that coming, and it's Keanu Reeves. And like, you were wrong. Your character should have been mind melted. But the best part of that is then Johnny Silverhand, our guy picked give me a second, and then like of the options like stand up or give me a second. It's just like your character just sat there for a second, then Johnny Silverhand's just like, you look like this guy a second ago, like the dead Netwatches guy, and then the option came back up and you stood up. And then you go back outside, and the two people from Placide's gang, from the Voodoo Boys that were watching the mall, like, who clearly both knew you were going to get melted, see you walk out, and they're both just like, oh, shit.
They can't believe that you're alive, and they're like, do you want to go see Brigitte? We'll take you there.
It's like, don't kill us. Because, like, and the announcer was like, no one is supposed to be able to survive having their brain melted. And then they take you back to see Placide, and you just punch Placide in the face, and then he's gonna kill you. And then Brigitte is like, she comes in and she's like, "Get out of here!"
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those alpha moments where it's like this guy that's seen like the tough top dog. He's like, she walks in, and is like, "All right, I'm gonna go back to my room now."
It reminded me of The Dark Knight Rises. With the way those two characters are interacting is very much the villain dynamic in Dark Knight Rises.
You're a good man, Ben.
And then, so then she says, if I had known you had the chip in you, like, I wouldn't have put you in any danger, like, whatever. And so then, this is where stuff gets, like, lore heavy, weird, crazy.
Talking about this guy named Alt Cunningham,
which I believe is a woman. The announcer referred to her as a she.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Alt Cunningham, apparently the first person to ever upload their entire consciousness to become an AI and live entirely on the net, is like this legendary hacker presence that apparently has gone beyond the black wall, which is something in the net, which is this, the cyberspace,
The deep web.
the deep web. And so and Brigitte is going to take you to talk to Alt Cunningham. That was the whole point of you wanted to meet Brigitte to talk to Alt Cunningham. Why? Not totally sure. I guess it has something to do with Johnny Silverhand and immortality. But, so yeah, they make you get into a ice bath, and your character is just like,
And a great little comedic moment is your character is freezing and having that reaction, and then you just get some sort of person that's like manning the station. They just come by and dump just a little bit more ice.
a little more ice
As
on
you're
you.
sitting
Yeah.
there freezing your
You're just
ass
like,
off. Yeah.
and then they're all like, all right, you ready? And they all get in their like pretty much Matrix chairs and jack into the net. And then Sandra Bullock walks in. No, I'm just kidding. And then, yeah, everything goes all crazy digital and weird looking. And then Brigitte is there, and your character's like, what is this? And she's like, this is the net. This is our little BBS, which I'm not sure what that means.
Probably it's bulletin board system.
Something, what?
That's old school.
Yeah, it's like a server or something.
No, it's just a forum.
Oh, okay, okay. And so then they're like, this is our gateway into the deep web. And so then it moves forward into the deep web to this giant red like wall. And she says, no one's ever come back from beyond the black wall until today. Alt Cunningham, she's going to be the first one to do it. Because apparently you're going to like try to remove a sliver of Johnny Silverhand, and that's going to like get her attention if there's anything human left in her, and she'll come out. Something to that effect.
I don't know.
Who knows what the hell that means? But then at the very end, you look up and like some kind of thing's like kind
pushing against the wall, breaking through.
Convex, thing comes out of the wall, and then it ended and went to the title. Pretty crazy, weird stuff. But yeah, it was pretty different from the last year's E3 demo. Which
I felt like it was a lot
demo,
more grounded in a way.
This
Like
one,
it wasn't trying to like
was.
shock you a lot.
It felt way more early game. It felt more like, here are the systems. Here's what it feels like to play this game in real time.
Yeah, the way that they set it up is they're like, we wanted to give you a very broad sense last year of what the world was like, and here we wanted to sell how this RPG works, and I think they did that spectacularly.
Capital R, capital P, capital G. But yeah, it was, and it was weird because my initial reaction, I was like, when they ended it there, I was like, okay, this is very solid. And now, like talking it over and thinking things through, and now that I've had time to let it sink in, I'm just like, this game is phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think part of what exemplifies that for me is this every scene, every step that we're describing in this demo. It's like, okay, well, we have the moment where we describe what's happening, but then one of us will jump in and be like, oh, did you notice this detail? Did you notice this detail? And it's like, yeah, anything that you're doing, there's this whole world functioning behind you that you can see live out in real time.
To like a terrifying degree.
Yeah.
I am horrified of this game because like we're all just going to have to disappear for like a month to play this game. And then 7 years from now, it'll come out on Switch, and it'll be hilarious.
I really liked the pistol. Had a really good impact.
Yeah.
Loved it. And again, there were like skills based on that. The skill tree was really cool. The inventory stuff. The inventory seemed really clean. There was just like your character there, and when you click a new piece of clothing, it puts it on them, and you see them like how they look and stuff. They like really stressed fashion in this game, so you can. There's a lot to customize
because they even said, people. I think you mentioned this too. People will react to you differently depending on how you're dressed.
Yeah.
So like if you're dressed like a corporate, they're gonna treat you like a stiff. If you're in this part of town, it's so cool.